Okay, Tribe, so we're back again today for another interview. Today we're going to be interviewing somebody that I consider a true brother, not just in the martial arts, but in life. One of the most genuinely generous and good people I've ever met in my life. Kevin Ravenhawk Cain is going to be our guest. And for those of you who know Kevin, he's a multi-talented individual, great martial artist, also a fabulous musician. And we're going to be talking today a little bit about martial arts, but also focusing a little bit more on Kevin's musical career and just his life, because Kevin has been something of an inspirational story. His life is not always been the easiest, but he's gotten to where he wants to be. He's never given up on his dreams, and now more than ever, he is experiencing some excellent success with his musical career. So I want to go ahead and introduce Raven Cain. And Raven, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you very much, and what a kind intro. I appreciate that. I feel the same way about you. You're an amazing person, and I've just admired for, I don't know how many years we've known each other, but I've admired you for a long time, and I appreciate you having me on and doing this. It's an honor to be here and have people listen to all of this. What was the question you asked me again?
Well, tell the audience that may not have met you before or may not have knowledge of who you are. Give us a little bit of information about who you are, what you're doing, just the 5-second version, and then we'll delve into a little bit more serious talk.
Okay. Well, for the martial artists out there, I'm a lifelong martial artist. Started training when I was a little boy. Been training ever since, my whole entire life. And at the same time, I'm also a musician. At the same time I started doing martial arts, I started playing the guitar and wanting to sing. I've always wanted to do one of two things or two things, either be a martial arts instructor to help guide people or to be a musician. And fortunately, I've been able to do both and pretty much accomplish almost everything I've ever wanted to do and dream of. And that's the short version.
Now, Kevin, this talk is in a serious tone. Your story is inspirational, but it's also something that I think a lot of people can relate to. You are successful at what you chose to do in life, but that success did not come easy for you.
No.
Tell us about your early life growing up and some of the hurdles you had to get through and how you stayed focused on what you wanted. Because a lot of people would have given up, I think, if they would have been walking in your shoes.
Okay. Yeah, definitely gets a little heavy at this point. When I was raised in a religious cult, I'll just leave it at that without mentioning any names. Okay. I raised in a religious cult. My father and mother and grandparents were extremely tied to this cult, and my father left. He was a musician. And he abandoned us to go on the road as a musician. And I call him an outlaw cowboy because that's basically what he was. He was, a country music singer, and he went around and decided to do that. Left us. I left my mom and my siblings alone. So my mother went out and found a person in the cult that she could, marry. She didn't know the person, but he moved us to a different state, stayed in the same cult, and during that time, he was starving us to death. So he was basically starving us and putting poison in my food. He wanted to get rid of me and my sister. He was putting poison in our food, and I got deathly ill. I was on my deathbed. And at the same time, he was abusing me and my sister pretty horrifically. So as I'm on my deathbed, basically, my mother's trying to figure out what's going on. The doctors are testing for everything. They find this poison in my system. They discover that I'm being poisoned in my food. Instead of pressing charges against the guy, because he was in the religious cult, the elders of this cult said, well, we don't want to bring any negative attention to us, so we're just going to do some counseling, and we don't want you to press any charges or anything. So this guy got off scot-free, although obviously I lived. My mother got us out of that situation, moved into our grandparents, who were also a part of this cult, raised us in this very, very harsh environment. We basically were sleeping in a garage. We were in a garage, and me and my two siblings and my mother were basically in a garage, living there, and that's where I spent half my life. So my mother finally moved us out of there, I should mention, right around that time, I started the martial arts, and I absolutely hated it. But when I was in kindergarten, I had this bully, so my mother took me to judo and jiu-jitsu classes, and I hated it until the day the bully in the playground started picking on me, and I threw him, bang, right on a big pile of branches and busted out crying like a big old baby. And I said, man, I kind of like this. It's also about the same time that I picked up my first guitar and started kind of playing with it, because my dad, being a musician, when the father leaves his children, especially a male child, there's always that empty void. Like, you always kind of want to live up to your father's expectation, even though you know he left you and abandoned you and didn't want anything to do with you. But at the same time, I always wanted to be like him, just because it was like kind of a mysterious type of figure, I guess, in my life. So I started playing guitar and doing martial arts around the same time. Finally, my mother did move us out of the garage and into a little apartment where we basically struggled our whole lives until I got to be a teenager, and I got out of there as quickly as possible. Hit the road in a rock band, and I kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. I got signed to several labels along the way, including a label called Dreamscape Records with one of my rock bands. Released an album that didn't do so great, but overseas it did okay. And then I retired from music after being on tour for a long time, and opened up martial arts schools. That's where me and you hooked up at that point. And once I decided I had 3 different martial arts schools at one point in time. I closed one, opened another one, moved to different areas or whatever, like everybody does. And I moved my family up to Utah here on the advice of one of my sensei's, Black Hawk Walters, and he recommended I come down here. I retired from music. I got into music again, just on a whim, and now all of a sudden I released an album on Universal, and I just re-signed another label with Atlantic Records, and things could not be better. Getting private lessons on the side, so I still get to do my martial arts, and I get to do music, and I've done everything I've ever dreamed to do.
Now, Kevin, let me ask you this, because I know from being your friend, and I knew Kevin Cain, and Kevin Cain was a great guy, and we had a good friendship, and from the outside looking in, I was observing your move to Utah. And I know it wasn't easy for you guys. You guys are pretty well established where you were, and it was a whole different, ball for you guys. But the man you are now is definitely a transformed person. I knew Kevin Cain, and now I know Raven Cain. Something happened. I mean, there was something, and I don't know if it was a psychological change, a spiritual change, but that trip to Utah, those experiences in Utah, I know from just knowing you for so long, there's a slightly different guy right now. Tell me about what happened there.
Well, I basically dove headfirst into a philosophy called the Way of the Hawk, and that was developed in 1973 by my sensei, Black Hawk Walters, who's the 4-time world kickboxing champion. I moved down to Utah and hoped to, I've always been I've always been searching for the best I can learn. I'm always searching for myself to figure out who am I exactly, and we're all on this journey to figure out who we are. Some people know who they are at an early stage, and I feel that's you in a lot of ways. You knew who you were. But for me, because of my background, I guess, I've always been searching, who am I? What am I? What am I about? What are my morals. Where's my compass? And my compass was set to the extreme with the cult. So where is my compass now? So I've always been struggling to find that. And when I moved out here to Utah, Blackhawk took me in as an apprentice and started working with me on the way of the hawk. And that way is about taking action in your life, setting goals, taking action, and being very consistent. So just little itty-bitty things every day. Take action. It's about enforcing discipline on yourself, making yourself do things that are out of the ordinary, following a philosophy and actually living by it. One of the greatest philosophies is that your word is your law, and if you say you're going to do something, you do something. Of course, I know that you live by that yourself, but there's a lot of so-called masters out there that talk a really good game, but they don't actually walk the talk. Blackhawk was totally different. Blackhawk walks the talk every single day, and here he is, 65 years old, and he's still in better shape than even almost anybody I know. He lives it. So that example made me realize, it turned the light on in my head, like, okay, this is how you do it. This is what you do. And I never really had someone in my life to do that. I mean, I had my jiu-jitsu since I grandmaster school, who was like that, but we didn't. I didn't connect with his philosophy as much because it was so deep. Actually, he would say things, and I'd write them down. I'd go, "What the heck is he talking about?" And it took me years to figure out what he was saying. But Blackhawk was more to the point and really opened my eyes to it. And then I started thinking, well, if I can take what Blackhawk has done to become a world champion and apply that to anything I want to, I can be successful. And that's exactly what I did. I told Blackhawk, hey, I'm going to take the way of the Hawk philosophy and I'm going to apply it to my music, and I think it can work. And sure enough, it does work. It works for any type of thing you want to do in your life. And I just apply it every single day in everything that I'm doing. And that's the difference.
Now, Kevin, my understanding is that there's a definite element of seeking happiness in Blackhawk's philosophy. And I got to say, every time I talk to the guy, he's just really upbeat. I can't think of a picture I've seen of him without a smile on his face. He just looks like he's loving life. And
yeah.
I see that you have come into that as well. I see you happier than I've seen you in many, many years.
Yeah. That's true. The thing that he taught me, and I guess it should have been self-evident, but it just wasn't to me for some reason, is that we're on a journey. Everybody's on their own particular journey in life. And the whole point of this whole experience called life is to be happy and to have fun, to enjoy yourself. And if you're not enjoying yourself, if you're not having fun, well, life's just too darn short to waste it on anything that doesn't make you happy, on anything. So he talks about, and we talk about when we teach about the cornerman and having the right people in your corner, the right people on your side. And if they're not, because, when you're fighting, and our martial arts listeners will appreciate this, but when you're fighting, you can't have people in your corner that don't know what they're doing. You can't have negative people in your corner. You got to have people that are really concerned for you and really want to help you, and those are your corner people. So if you have those corner people in your life, and you continuously take action on what makes you happy, then you will move forward and you will achieve great things. Anything you want to achieve, you can do it. Most people fail because they don't stay consistent. They'll get really excited, right? Do something all full board for a little while, and then a year goes by, and it's like, yeah, I haven't gotten there yet. But the thing is that it's the journey to get there, and it's making it, it's doing it if you just stay consistent.
Now, tell me a little bit about your music, because just as you've gone through a transformation in your life, your music has as well. I've heard your music from when you were younger, the time you said you'd kind of retired from that part of your musical career. And I've heard your music now, and it's, you know, if I didn't know it was the same artist, I don't think I'd figure it out just by listening to the music.
Right.
What's going on with your music now? What are you putting into your music, and what are you getting out of it?
Well, back then, I had a lot of angst and anger because of my past, and I wrote a lot from a dark place. You know, it was very depressing, and because I was depressed and upset. I mean, heck, when I practiced my martial arts, I'd be looking to get in the fights and stuff, you know. And as you already know, there's no way to do things, you know. But that's the way where I was. My music, my martial arts, everything was very intense. Now, I'm not writing from a dark place. I'm writing from an authentic place. Because what I've learned is what the authentic me is. And the older I get, the more I'm okay with expressing exactly who I am and what I'm feeling at the time. And, you know, I don't have that darkness inside of me anymore. I mean, everybody feels angst, right, and upset sometimes, and that's a natural emotion, but I don't have that anymore. I'm fairly, you know, I'm at peace. So my music is coming from a place of authenticity and honestly expressing myself in whatever I'm talking about, and as opposed to being from a place of angst and anger before.
Now, you also, aside from your involvement with Black Hawk and the spiritual way that you're following now, you are also an ordained monk. Tell me something about that, because that's a very different from where you came from. And, you know, tell me something about that.
Okay. Well, of course, through my path of martial arts, I've experienced Buddhism, and I've always been very attracted to Buddhism and Zen and those type of things. In fact, I studied with a guy named Tabu Roshi, who was a Zen teacher, Zen master, for quite some time. And I've always been very fascinated with it. I always felt it was the right way for me. But in my younger days, and with the angst, the rebellion, I got into some darker things. But to be honest with you, you know, after leaving the cult, I rebelled and went totally the opposite way. I wanted to do every single dark thing I could possibly do. I mean, heck, I joined the Church of Satan, for goodness sake, at one point. You know, I wanted to rebel, and it wasn't about believing anything in particular, because at that point I was confused of what I believed. I didn't know, you know. So I rebelled and did every dark thing that I possibly could do. And but through that, it was like a journey. I went through all kinds of different things in studying, because of the way that my childhood was. I honestly did not know what I believed in. I had no faith in anything. I really didn't believe in anything. And that's that dark place, you know, and it's pretty terrible when you don't have anything to believe in. You don't feel anything in particular about anything like that, you know. So Buddhism was the closest thing that I've ever felt. So as I've been developing and studying religions, and because of me growing up in a cult, it made me very interested in religious philosophy and things like that. And you know, as I studied, I kept coming back to Buddhism. And as I continued that, and even as I got on the spiritual journey with Black Hawk, a lot of the things that Black Hawk talks about is actually Buddhism without you know, the same as Buddhism. He's not a Buddhist at all, you know. But I just kept coming back to it. So I said, you know what, I'm going to dedicate some time and really study to see if this is the path for me. And it really is the original teachings. I don't believe in organized religion, but what I do believe in is living a way and setting a standard for yourself. And I had to really, literally figure out what the heck that was for myself. Most people are taught that when they're younger, but I don't have that. So I had to figure it out myself and really go on this journey to figure out what I was going to do and be. And of course, when I really got involved with Buddhism, I really wanted to continue on and continue to teach people the way. And so I did that through the way of Buddhism, and finally became an ordained priest. And I'm really, really happy with that. And it has nothing to do with the title. It has everything to do with just knowing that I've dedicated myself to a spiritual way that I really feel it's part of me.
Now, there is another aspect to your spirituality as well, and you have some Native American ancestry, and I know that a few years back you began to really explore that more thoroughly, and I know that your time with Black Hawk was real instrumental in that. Tell us something about the Native American spirituality, how it plays into your life, and what that worldview is like.
Okay, actually, I've had the opportunity through Black Hawk to learn a lot about the Native culture and my ancestry with that, and it's interesting. It's really helped me discover a lot about where I came from as far as the Native side is concerned, and what I learned is that most, I know there are some exceptions, and I don't want anybody to take this offensively, but most of the spirituality I've seen of the Native Americans has been kind of like a white person driven thing. And I don't mean that offensively, of course, but it's like all these books you see on Native spirituality and stuff, it's like it's almost, from what I see, it's just not as authentic as it could be.
Well, no, and that's true, because I know that there's a lot of kind of hokey New Age stuff that's attributed to Native American spirituality that is not authentic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I just haven't met many people who have been very authentic when it comes to that, on the exception of the Black Hawk, and there's a few other people. But, when it comes to that spirituality, I really think that most of the natives that I know of that are really Christian now. And I have nothing against Christianity. It's just confusing to me because, they did come from their own unique worldview, historically speaking, and all of them had a different kind of creation story, and they all had, these different stories passed down. But it's interesting to me is that when, the Europeans came here, they brought this Christian religion to the United States or Americas, and they forced the Native Americans to learn this. They forced them to speak English. They forced them to, cut their hair. They forced them to, learn this religion. And it's interesting to me that I find most of the Native Americans that I know are Christian. And I just find that interesting because of the fact that they were forced into it, which to me it's like I said, it's an interesting thing. And so the Native American church is even a Christian church, although it has peyote involved and whatnot. It's still the sacrament is peyote, but it's still a Christian type of religion. And I believe Von Black Hawk is actually a member of the Native American church. So yeah, it's and you were asking about the spirituality and how that contributed. To be honest with you, the contribution of that is just the influence of Black Hawk and Red Hawk. And Red Hawk is kind of my spiritual guide, my spirit guide. And those two have influenced my view on the Native Americans. Actually, on my shrine in my little meditation place, it is a mixture between Native American and Buddhism. It's kind of a weird philosophy that I've got going on here,
Well, if it works for you, I mean, that's what's important. I mean, if it's making you a better person and bringing you happiness, that's what's going to be important. Now, let's talk a little bit about warriorship. And we talk with a lot of our guests about this, and the tribe is pretty much dedicated to developing warriorship as a lifestyle. And a lot of people, confuse the I was known for a couple of years with my training company that had the Raven name, and people often confuse it, and they think that the Raven tribe is about teaching martial arts or teaching self-defense. And that's not really what we do. We're focusing on building warrior lifestyle and promoting that lifestyle. From your perspective, what do you see as the warrior lifestyle, and how can people begin to emulate that and to integrate that into their lives?
Great question. Warrior lifestyle, to me, it's about being and having the courage of being authentically yourself and having the courage to live life in such an authentic way that you're so big in your own confidence, in your own life, and you're so in touch with your own happiness that you really don't have time for anyone else's Mickey Mouse. You're too authentic to talk bad about somebody, because what does their journey have to do with your journey? You're too authentic to worry about being jealous over someone else's career, because what does their career have to do with your career? You're happy just the way you are. You're too courageous and authentic to worry about whether or not somebody has a BMW and you're driving around in a little pickup truck. What does it matter? You get one place to know you're happy, so what does it matter? So you're so confident, but not egotistical. But everyone has an ego, but you recognize your ego, and you recognize what's authentically you and what's not you, and you have the courage to say what you really are, to show what you really are, to be what you really are at all times, and being very consistent about it. And I think that's very courageous. And it's also about being a protector. So if someone is weaker than you, or someone is in trouble, then the warrior is the one who steps up. Now, that could be a step up as someone. It doesn't have to be violence. You could step up and be courageous by having someone who is trying to always, I call them psychic vampires. They're always trying to suck the life out of you. Always trying to use you. Always trying to maybe get money from you or get something from you all the time. And sometimes being a warrior is having the courage to say no, not enabling a person like that. Sometimes it's about actually preventing violence from happening to someone else. Sometimes it's just having the courage to actually make a difference in someone's life, even if what is required of you is a struggle for your own ego and for your own life itself. So, to me, being a warrior is 100% being authentic.
And this approach to warriorship has helped you to reach your goals in music,
Yes.
in your martial arts, in your day-to-day life.
Yes, absolutely. One thing about that, and speaking of martial arts, just like a lot of martial artists, I've at one point, because again, knowing who you are and what you do, it's very important. And if you don't know those things, and a lot of people like myself take a long time to get there, right? But one thing that I was always interested in, and I felt that I needed, was learning a new art, learning a new thing, getting a new degree, getting this, getting that. If I only knew this art, that would bring in more students. And if I only knew that, I could get this and that. If I only had that technique or that kata, if I only had those skills, man, if I could only train with this guy, my martial arts would be complete. Well, that was all bull. There is, because there is nothing that will complete you except for yourself. You can continue to get knowledge, but I found that it's not as important to me anymore, because honestly, there's so many ways you can, do martial arts anyhow. I don't feel like styles or anything like that are disconnected from one from the other. I don't see that Sayat Kali is any different than judo or boxing. I just don't see a difference, and I don't see a difference in human beings either. I don't see races. I don't see colors. I don't see martial arts styles. I don't see anything but human beings. And I don't think any piece of paper in the world is going to prove that you are authentically you and that you are a martial artist. All these things I used to have on my wall and all this stuff, all that stuff is down, man. I don't look at any of those things. I don't claim anything. It's just a bunch of paper that doesn't mean anything. So all those certifications and all that, recognition that I was always seeking after when I was a younger man, all of that's gone because none of it matters. It's all about being yourself and, yes, learning, but knowing also when, an elbow is just an elbow, whether it comes from Thai boxing or it comes from the kicking method, It's just a different way of approaching because it's just a different person teaching it. So it's like learning Mike Tyson's way of boxing. You can't learn Mike Tyson's way of boxing because you're not Mike Tyson. So I think the same thing with these styles. You just have to create your own by being authentically yourself and knowing when you know. Knowing when you know. I guess that's a good way of putting it. You'll come to a point when you know. And when you know, you know. There's another piece of paper in the world that can make you know anymore.
Now, Kevin, what is the authentic martial arts of Kevin today that you're teaching to your students? From a philosophical point of view, from a practical point of view, what are you teaching people now?
That's exactly what I'm teaching people. And that's one thing I learned from Blackhawk. He always says, I don't teach a style, I teach people. So I don't teach a style, I teach people. So if someone comes to me who's muscular and, I'll just create it for their own body type, create it for their own lifestyle, not forced. I don't have I used to have, like everybody else, I used to have systems written out and drawn out and get this for that belt and this for that. I don't do that anymore. It's just what will fit that person. What are their goals in life? What is it that they're trying to accomplish? Why do they want to study martial arts? What do they need? And then sometimes what they need, they don't know. So you have to determine that, through years of training yourself. But yeah, I don't teach a style. I just teach people. That's exactly what I teach.
Now, from a training perspective, when you're working with these students, it sounds like you're very much tailoring, the material to the needs of the students for practicality sake, real world self-defense. The toolbox, I know, is always in flux for you, and as you said, you've always been the type of person to learn new material, integrate new ways of doing things. And how does that translate for the students now?
Well, the toolbox I also design around their needs and wants and and their desires. So if their desire is to be a great kickboxer, well then their toolbox I'm going to design more boxing, kickboxing, more footwork, more If their desire is to be a great grappler, well then I'm going to go into more my jiu-jitsu, my judo, and my wrestling and things like that. If they want to be a great knife fighter, then then I'll just tailor it to them. It just depends on what their lifestyle is. But then again, I also look at it and go, okay, this guy wants to be the greatest kicker in the world, but he's 600 pounds and he can't lift his knee up over his belly. So how am I going to arrange this for him? So then we talk about lifestyle. We talk about so it all revolves ultimately around me trying to help them discover their true selves. So a lot of my teaching is philosophical, and I actually use a lot of the elements, and I'll break down elements. Is one way I really do it is I'll say, we're going to study water, for example, and how does water move? What is water? So I'll show maybe a technique or something, a concept, and a water idea, a flowing, a reflecting, a shifting, a scientific kind of way of thinking. And then after the lesson, it could be, moving off at an angle and then reattacking or attacking in it. It doesn't matter, whatever the technique is. I teach that, and then at the end of the lesson, then we'll reflect on what it means to be. How does that apply to your life? What does it mean to be a reflecting pond? What does it mean to consistently drip on something until you get what you want? What does it mean to be water? What does that mean to be life? So I do that with each element, and we break those down into that process.
Excellent.
And I also take a blocking method that I learned in karate, Shaolin Kimbo karate years ago, they called it the 8-point blocking system. I broke it down into 4 because there's really only 4 blocks. And I looked at all 4 of those blocks. Well, one's across the body, one circles over towards the outside of the body, one goes above the body, one goes below the body. Okay, so these movements, they're circular and they're linear all at the same time. When I look at these things, I see everything inside of it. I see that number 1 block, that circular block, that chest block that everyone knows. Well, I see that as all kinds of things, from blocks, from locks, to strikes, to knife fighting, everything. All of these 4 movements, I can very easily, and so can everyone else, very easily show anyone how to do just about anything self-defense-wise, whether it be attacking, blocking, throwing, knife fighting, stick fighting, chain. So it doesn't matter. They're all in these 4 movements, 4 core movements.
Yeah, and also you've always been very pragmatic with your training, and that's one thing that I think helped us to connect, is that we're always looking for that, practicality to the martial arts. Now, Kevin, tell the audience where they can learn more about your music.
Well, let's see. I'm pretty much everywhere now at this point, thank goodness, because of the whole record deal thing. But I have a website, ravencainmusic.com, and then my Facebook page, ravencain.info. Pretty much anything there. I'm on all the digital stations, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, all that stuff, iTunes and everything. Of course, I'm all over. My videos are on YouTube as well, just Raven Cain. Gosh, I don't know. I go to Walmart.com and get the CD if you want to.
Excellent.
It's pretty much everywhere at this point, thank goodness. And it's just going to get better because I just finished recording a second album, and that'll be coming out pretty soon. It's tentatively titled Rebel with a Cause.
And this is with your new recording company?
Yeah, it'll be released with Atlantic. So it's interesting. I did the song called Son of the South. That's actually the name of the first album, Son of the South. And everybody thought I was being racist because Son of the South. It hit literally the same time with all that stuff was going down with the rebel flag and all that stuff, And they thought, well, this guy's racist. And I got concerts canceled because they thought I was racist. But what they didn't know is that the song, Son of the South, is a patriotic song. And it has nothing to do with the South. And I always tell the story when I'm on stage. I always say, the song is about those people that fly airplanes into our buildings. It's about the people that are cutting off the heads of our soldiers. It's about the people that are trying to terrorize us all the time. They all have one thing in common. They say that we're all the great Satan. America's the great Satan. He kills it all the time. And I figured that if we are the great Satan, that means only one thing. Then America was south of heaven. And if we live south of heaven, then I sure am proud to be a son of the South. And so that album, Son of the South, is not a, North versus South type of thing. It's really a patriotic thing about us all standing up, not just against terrorism itself, but standing up for ourselves in general.
Excellent. And Kevin, tell the audience where they can find information about your martial arts training and the way.
So you can go to thewaynbsa.com. It's NBSA, Mind, Body, Spirit, Action, thewaynbsa.com. But really the best thing is because, I have a lot of private students now. Normally people just message me, via email or through Facebook, just message me, we go out and talk to you and help you out. And that's one thing that this music career has given me the opportunity is to be able to help people more. More people are interested in studying with me, which is great. But I have very limited time to actually train people, So I take only a select people, but once I realize that they're very serious about changing their lives, very serious about discovering who they are authentically, and I'm okay with why they want to learn physical skills, because this stuff isn't monkey business, You're learning how to hurt somebody. And so I'm selective now. When I'm in schools, of course, I wasn't selective, right? But now I'm very selective because, I want to touch people in a positive positive way with both the message and the physical skills. So the best thing to do is just to message me personally on Facebook, or you can go to my Facebook page. It's ravencain.info, and you get a hold of me there. We can talk. I'm certainly interested. I love what you had said in an article a while back. You said that you have to put a price on and value on what you do, and that too many times we'll discount our own self because we so desperately want to help or spread the message, and sometimes it's even just for a matter of ego. We want to get out there and do it and show that we're out there. With that, I think it's really important for all martial arts instructors, musicians, and everybody in life. I could not agree with you more that you absolutely must put a value on what you do and should never do anything without having someone put skin in the game. And it doesn't matter what that skin in the game is, whether it be financial money or they're doing work for you on the side. You want to make sure that they put something into it. That way they give you, it's for them, really. It's not even for you. You might not even need the money. You might not need to get anything done, but it's for them to have skin in the game. And so I totally agree with you on that. And so same thing with me teaching martial arts. I will always ask for some kind of skin in the game.
As it should be, definitely. People need to invest in what they're doing. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate having you on. It was a pleasure. Always good to talk to you. And just to the audience, I just want to reiterate that Kevin is one of the most talented martial artists I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. So if you are anywhere in the Utah area and are able to get out and train with him, I highly recommend it. And let's all try to support a fellow tribe member. Get out there and order your DVDs and CDs. Order your CDs. The new one's coming out soon. We have older stuff already online, and this man is, following his dream and making some killer music. And if you guys haven't heard it yet, you definitely need to. So, Kevin, again, thank you so much for being on.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. Well, hopefully I'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you, Kevin.